Hello and welcome to Chapter 5, the history of Rome and some of its cultural diffusion in relation to like the Roman or to the Chinese. So, let's talk about Rome. Last time we talked about the Greeks a little bit. And, well, to jump back, it's sort of a meta thing, is these videos are primarily to like talk about the broad trends of history. I might not hit every vocab word that's in the book with each of these, but these are to give you like an understanding of like the flowing story of history. So if I don't hit a vocab word, tough luck. But, boom, so we got Rome, right? And so, well, Greece is like city-states and all that. This is like 750-ish BC. There is a river, St. Rivers again, and along that river, this city pops up called Rome. And over time, Rome is part of a tribe, or it's like in the area of the Latins, which are an Indo-European tribe in Italy, and they expand and grow and all that great stuff. So they take over much of central Italy. In the north, okay, so you got the Alps, the mountains south of the Alps are the Etruscans, and the Etruscans are a cool civilization, which is like they might not be Indo-European, I can't remember, but they're the Etruscans, and so they're cool, and they have like this confederation. And then in the south are Greek colonists, because Greece is here, so it's called Magna Graecia, which is Latin for Greater Greece. And then you have Sicily here, which will be a point of contention between the Romans and the Phoenicians. And we didn't hit on the Phoenicians too much, but the Phoenicians are a Semitic peoples from just north of like modern-day Israel, and their borders correspond with what is now Lebanon. And they, like the Greeks, had traders who went across the Mediterranean Sea. And one of the cities they built is called Carthage. And it is a, like, trading city. So they have, like, outposts, and this is one of those outposts that got really big and eventually broke away from the larger trade confederation thing and started its own thing. So that's the Carthaginian Republic. So Rome, there will be somewhere in the account, there's going to be, like, a big long Rome series, but short, Rome takes over Italy, then fights the Carthaginians, then beats them, and then they go bigger than this small map, so we can move to the globe map. So Rome takes over a lot. Rome gets very big, and it also takes over southern England too, or southern Britain. So, to see what the book wants you to know. So at first it's a republic, and then it becomes an empire. And some of the big things to know is that it has an excellent transportation system, which allows the facilitation of a new religion. So in Roman Judea, there's a guy named Jesus Christ, and Jesus Christ says that he is the Son of God. And after his crucifixion, his followers go across the Roman Empire and kind of spread that word. One of the biggest guys who spread that is St. Paul, who was like the apostle to the non-Jewish population of the Roman Empire. So the spread of Christianity is aided by the intricate road systems around the Roman Empire, which is part of a bigger thing called the Pax Romana, which is Latin for the Roman peace. So the Pax Romana, it's a large, peaceful, expansive area, so you can, spread ideas and stuff like that across that empire, across that place, there's boats going across the Mediterranean, unfettered by war, and then you have, roads that connect, down here with northwestern France. So the ideas and stuff like that can move a lot faster. The Romans, there's probably stuff about the Romans already, their military is really good. And they have, so that they kind of take a lot of the higher culture stuff from the Greeks. So their gods are kind of copies of the Greek gods. And when they're writing, a lot of sophisticated Romans write in Greek. So, and we'll get to that a few videos down the line. But a lot of sophisticated Romans write in Greek. Just keep that in mind. And Julius Caesar, when he died, the idea of him saying et tu Brute is a Shakespearean innovation. The people who were around at the time said that his most likely last words were kai su tekon, which is Greek for you too, child. So the fact that that's Julius Caesar's last words are in Greek. So it's just like a level, because it was him talking to senators. So it's kind of like a very sophisticated thing among them. So even the Romans are kind of Hellenized in themselves. So again, the importance of Greek culture in the history of the West. Blah, blah, blah. And yeah, so you have the rise of Christianity. At the same time, you have in the East, the Han Dynasty of China. And so the Han Dynasty is a very big and prosperous dynasty. So you have two very big economies, and you have kind of like a trade network starts going. So Chinese goods start going through the Middle East to the eastern half of the Roman Empire along this thing, which is later called the Silk Road. And I don't really need to write that, but that's a pretty big idea, like the Silk Road. These trade routes that are going across land in Central Asia. And it's called Silk Road because silk is one of the things that goes across. So the Romans develop a taste for some of this fancy stuff from China. And then another thing they do is, there are Romans around here, so they will sail down to Ethiopia a little bit and then off to India. That's much more limited, but there is evidence on like one Roman map of the world that there was a temple to Augustus in India. So, if that's ever found, that'd be kind of cool. But yeah, so trade connections between the Han and the Romans, and the Han are very, very advanced. Who do they follow dynasty-wise? The Qin. Excellent. Yes. Yeah. So, blah, blah, blah. And one of the things the Han do as well is, one of their big things is they adopt Confucianism as a state ideology, which, the Qin were extremely legalistic, but now the Han are embracing Confucianism and education and stuff like that, which makes the society a lot more advanced. So yeah, to briefly finish up Rome, Rome eventually converts to Christianity under the Emperor Constantine. He's like the one who gets that really moving. And then you have, it's a very big empire, and, even with roads, it's hard to run an empire that is multiple modern countries without electricity, especially when it's run by a single guy. So they decide to break it into two to make running it easier. But then, disaster strikes. So you have barbarians out here. And when we say barbarians are just people who civilized groups see as uncivilized. So, and their names come, I've heard different stories about what the word barbarian comes from. Some say that it's, the word for beard in Latin is barba. So like which is where barber comes from, by the way. But like barba, like they're these bearded hooligans. Or that the Greeks, when the Persians came, the Persians to them sounded like they're going bar, 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 instead of like sophisticated Greek speaking. So they called them the Barbaroi, and the Romans, took it, and now we have it. But anyway, barbarians are like tribes people, and so you have one tribe called the Jianyu, and they are the Huns. If you've ever seen Mulan, that's those guys. And so the Jianyu, whether by famine or other, maybe the Chinese beat them, something happens, so the Jianyu go westwards. And so one thing to remember is, aside from the Ural Mountains, this whole span is very, very flat, and you can kind of go across it really fast. So the Jianyu go, and they show up in here, and there are Germanic tribes on the border of the Roman Empire. Now you have these really scary Huns, which is what the Romans call them, the Huns, like showing up, and they're like really awesome horse archers and stuff like that. And so if you're a Germanic tribesman, you have a weakened Roman Empire on one side, or nightmarish barbarians from East Asia on the other. So you decide, okay, we'll seek refuge in the Roman Empire. So they go in and they say, we're seeking asylum, please give us land so we'll live under your country, and then the Romans don't treat the barbarians well who move into the country. So there's a whole bunch of stuff plays out. In the end, the barbarians invade the Roman Empire and kind of kick them out. But they only take over the Western Roman Empire. So now the Western Roman Empire is like broken up into little barbarian kingdoms. The Franks take over what is Northern Gaul. And then, you think about the country. Franks becomes Francia, which we get France. And then you also get some Germanic tribesmen going to Spain. but their kingdoms don't last, which we'll get to that later. And then you have like the Burgundians and the Lombards and Ostrogoths and everything. So the Roman Empire in the west is totally broken up into these barbaric tribes. But in the east, it survives, and from henceforth, it is called the Byzantine Empire. And again, that's another thing we'll hit on later. And in the east, eventually, as the Mandate of Heaven goes, the Han give way onto the next chain. So Shang-Cho, Qin, Han, Sui is the next dynasty of China. But that is for another episode. And just to think about, one of the things about the Han Dynasty that I want to hit on is part of their state Confucianism and their implementation of Confucianism as a government ideology is they have things called civil service examinations, where the government gives people long tests to make sure that the people in government aren't necessarily like the most politically connected, but the most qualified and the most well-educated. And yeah. All right, I think that's about it. Tune in next time for whatever our next lesson is.